Hello, this is Dodie Onis, and I'm a librarian at the Denver Public Library Central. This is our Spring Book Buzz 2024. The first title on our list is Limitarianism, The Case Against Extreme Wealth by Ingrid Robbins. Ingrid is a Dutch philosopher, and she spent 10 years doing the research on this book that is the latest in a long line of critiques, such as Thomas Piketty's Capital and Branko Milanovic's Visions of Equality, of the soaring wealth and income gaps of recent decades. Did you know that 9 of the world's top 15 billionaires are citizens of the United States? Robbins argues that given the wider damage from the enrichment of the few, with its negative impact on economic strength and on wider life chances and social resilience, we must now impose a limit on individual wealth holdings. This is a concept that has a uniquely European twist in Robbins' book. Next is If the Tide Turns by Rachel Rueckert. It is 1715 in Eastham, Massachusetts. Maria Brown has a secure future mapped ahead of her, but it's not the future she wants. She has no desire to marry the aging, mean-spirited John Hallett, but what she'd rather do is spend time with Samuel Bellamy, an orphan sailor, who enthralls her with talk of far-flung places and blasphemous ideals. When Sam disappears, Maria decides to go find him on the open seas. Banished as a witch, she learns to survive on her own, all while waiting and hoping for Sam to return to her. This is called The Scarlet Letter Meets the Golden Age of Pirates. Our next title is The Night in Question by Susan Fletcher, a very popular writer in the UK. And this one might leave you with both wet eyes and a smile on your face. There are two mysteries working in tandem. Florrie Butterfield is an octogenarian resident of Babington Hall, and she sees her manager, Renata, jump from a third-story window, leaving her in a coma. At least that's what everybody thinks. Florrie, because she's good friends with Renata, believes that this couldn't actually happen. She finds herself working with Stanhope, a charming fellow resident, to solve the mystery. As they dig into the mysteries of Renata's fall, stories emerge about Babington Hall and Florrie's own history. This is a gradually revealed secret in the history of what Florrie holds within herself. In The Good Eater, Harvard-trained sociologist and vegan Nina Gilboat vividly explores the movement's history and its present-day tensions by grappling with the most fundamental question of all: is there truly an ethical way to eat? As a vegan, you're relying less on the resources that the earth has to offer. It takes a lot more to produce a steak than it does a green bean. She also looks at whether technology and AI play a bigger role in food and what this means to consumers and the market. This is a great way for you to start thinking about new and old ways for you to be realistic about what you can do for your health, the planet, and our animals. The next book is I've Got My Mind Set on Brew by Stephanie James. This will be familiar, even though it's a Chicago brew pub, to many that live in the Denver area. At the Resistance, Kat is working as a beer tender after losing her healthcare job and trusting her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, who ran up a lot of debt under Kat's name. She finds a newfound home at the Resistance and is beginning to feel comfortable enough to learn about brewing beer. Everything she's dreamed about comes crashing down when the owners have to sell, and Ryan, a privileged frat boy, walks in after his dad, an investor, buys the place. This is a little bit of frenemies to lovers, and this is something that many of you will be familiar with. Kat is sure that Ryan is just running the business for glory, and later finds out that if he doesn't make a success of it, his father's going to cut him out. So Kat and Ryan have to work together to keep the Resistance open, and back there behind the barrels, sparks fly. The Serial Killer's Apprentice is for all you true crime fans out there. Elmer Henley Jr. was only 14 when he first became entangled with serial rapist and murderer Dean Corll in 1971. When Henley unwittingly entered the trap, Corll sensed he'd be more use as a second accomplice than a victim, and then he baited Henley with $200 for each boy that he could bring him. When he finally turned himself in, Henley showed police where he and Corll had buried most of the victims in mass graves. 28 bodies were recovered, most of them boys from Henley's neighborhood, making this the worst case of serial murder in America at the time. Henley was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences, and this took place in the Houston area. The case reveals gross failures in the way cops handled parents' pleas to look for their missing sons and how law enforcement possibly protected a larger conspiracy. At its simplest, Last Days in Plaka is a story about Irene, an elderly Greek widow, once well-to-do but now dependent on the kindness of her church, and Anna, a young Greek American working at an art gallery and desperate to connect with her parents' native culture. When the two women come together through the local church, their friendship develops through Irene's stories of her former life, while Anna has to reckon with what is real and what is fabrication. As they join the priest's tiny congregation to study the Book of Revelations in preparation for a pilgrimage to Patmos, Anna sinks deeper into Irene's stories of an estranged daughter, lost wealth, and the earthquake damage to her noble home. Plaka is a neighborhood in Athens known as the neighborhood of the gods. It sits at the base of the Parthenon, and anywhere you look, you can always see history. This partly influences Anna as she makes a decision that puts her in peril, exposes Irene's web of lies, and compels Anna to confront the limits of her forgiveness. Miss Morgan's Book Brigade is the second book in Janet Charles's library trilogy. You may be familiar with her first book, The Paris Library, and this follows suit. This has a dual timeline, 1918 and 1987. In 1918, as the Great War rages, Jessie Carson takes a leave of absence from the New York Public Library to work for the American Committee for Devastated France. She then, on arrival, she strives to establish something that the French have never had, children's libraries. She turns ambulances into bookmobiles and trains the first female librarians, and then she disappears. In 1987, Wendy Peterson stumbles across a passing reference to Jessie Carson as a New York Public Librarian and aspiring writer and becomes consumed with learning the fate of Jessie. She has no idea their paths will converge in surprising ways across time. Based on the extraordinary little-known story of the women who received the Croix de Guerre Medal for courage under fire, Miss Morgan's Book Brigade is a tribute to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of literature, and ultimately the courage it takes to make a change. Next book, something completely different, Trippy, The Peril and Promise of Medicinal Psychedelics by Ernesto Londoño. Ernesto Londoño has been a journalist at the New York Times for about a decade, having covered wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as the Arab Spring. But in this debut book, Londoño charts a story born of a personal crisis that quickly developed into equal parts a journalistic and healing quest. Londoño was born and raised in Colombia as the war on drugs cast a shadow on his childhood. Trippy sheds light on his reevaluation of psychedelics, from his just say no upbringing to something of a ravenous interest. The subject of psychedelics is engaging, especially for readers interested in emerging therapies. Blending solid research and personal experience, the author points to a new frontier for trauma treatment. Seven Summers is from Paige Toon, a well-known author in the UK and getting better known here. Liv and Finn meet 6 summers ago working in a bar on the rugged Cornish coastline. Their future's full of promise. When a night of passion ends in devastating tragedy, they are bound together inextricably. But Finn's life in LA is with his band and Liv's is in Cornwall with her family, so they make a promise. They return every year, and if they're single, they will spend the summers together. And they do, for 7 years. But now Liv finds herself drawn to an elusive new summer tenant, Tom Thornton. As the wildflowers in Heather come into bloom, they find themselves falling for one another. For the first time, Liv can imagine a world where her heart isn't broken every year. And now she must make that impossible choice. The setting will have readers hearing the ocean waves and smelling sea salt in the air, and the interwoven love stories are enthralling. Put this on the top of your summer beach read list. 13 years before the Kennedy assassination, on November 1, 1950, 2 Puerto Rican nationalists attempted to take President Truman's life. Gracilio Torresola and Oscar Collazo were part of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party, led by Pedro Albizu Campos, the current president, and they wanted to bring attention to Puerto Rico's fight for independence. They decided to do this by killing the president. This graphic novel by John Vázquez Miez is a brilliantly unique telling of a story that most Americans have never heard. Rendered in gorgeously carved woodblocks and buffeted with historical supplemental material, this book relates to readers the 1950 insurrection on the island that resulted in 38 deaths and a failed assassination attempt against President Harry S. Truman. Told as a fable in which the leaders of the movement are visited by ghosts of Michael Collins and Gandhi, this book showcases an important and often overlooked movement in American history and a historical touchstone for the Puerto Rican independence movement. If the cover of The 5-Year Lie looks familiar, maybe you've been to Portland, Maine, the setting for this book by Serena Bowen. When nasty boss Edward Cafferty hires his spoiled daughter Ariel to work at Chime, the video doorbell business he runs with his much calmer brother, the rest of the staff keeps back. But one colleague, Drew, isn't afraid, and before you can say digital privacy invasion, the two are falling hard for each other. Fast forward 5 years, and Drew is long gone, having abandoned Ariel and the job, ending the affair through email. Ariel later found his obituary, and it seemed that was that. She's now raising the child he never knew he had and struggling to keep up with the Uber moms at school and to give her sweet son the happiest upbringing possible. Then a bombshell. A text from Drew asking her to meet, a message that leads to an upending of everything she thought she knew about the man and a dangerous journey to find out the truth and save her family. Ariel is a character who readers will root hard for, and they'll follow her narrow escapes until late into the night on a just one more page quest to see her to safety. In Fair Shake, 3 female law professors, all from different university systems, look at the current state of women in the workplace and the ways in which systemic burdens hold them back, increase wage disparities, and foster unhealthy competition between them. Even before COVID, women were stumbling further behind in the economy, and the co-authors blame an unhealthy competitive business environment ruled by what they call the triple bind. Women lose whether or not they compete on the same terms as men, and when they do, they often remove themselves from the workplace or get pushed out. So far, laws have failed to protect women at work. Calling for a new set of values that prioritize collaboration, inclusion, and productivity rather than competition, amorality, and self-interest, these 3 professors advocate for significant actions such as mobilizing public outrage, continuing to take legal action, capping the accumulation of power at the top, promoting diversity, providing adequate and affordable childcare, raising the minimum wage, and instituting income guarantees. Give Fair Shake a shake. Phantom Orbit is a new thriller from David Ignatius, who some of you may know from the Foreign Affairs column he writes for the Washington Post. Most of us think of all the satellites circling Earth as either great assets for national security and weather watching, or as just more space junk. But what if our own satellites were to become the most deadly weapons that could be used against us? Author David Ignatius is known for his uncanny ability in novel after novel to predict the next great national security headline. Now he presents a story both searing and topical with stakes as far-reaching as outer space. It follows Ivan Volkov, a Russian student in Beijing who discovers an unsolved puzzle in the writings of the 17th century astronomist Johannes Kepler. He takes the puzzle to a senior scientist in the Chinese space program and declares his intention to solve it. Volkov returns to Moscow and continues his secret work. The puzzle holds untold consequences for space warfare. And one important note for readers and listeners: Phantom Orbit sprints along with none of the blood splatter and profanity so common in the thriller genre. The Daily Conversation Starter is perfect for families of all ages, all sizes. Author Katie Clemens' mission is bringing families together through stories. She's done it with a line of journals, and now in the Daily Family Conversation Starter, she offers families one accessible activity to check off each day of the year. Your stronger family connection starts with just 5 minutes of conversation each day. The Daily Family Conversation Starter contains 365 easy and imaginative ways to check in with your kids and grandkids, develop their growth mindset, and get both serious and silly together. Prompts like these will get your family talking, and you may find it hard to get them to stop. Who made you laugh today? What would you do if you had a tail? Whether commuting together, sitting at the dinner table, or preparing for bedtime, this book invites you to share, discover, and laugh together as you create family memories that last a lifetime. Set during the last 4 months of 1938 on the island off the Welsh coast, Whale Fall by Elizabeth O'Connor follows 18-year-old Manav and her quest to break free from her imprisoning surroundings. 3 miles long and home to only 12 families, the island has an economy sustained by what its remaining inhabitants can catch from the sea. Then there's an unusual occurrence. A whale washes up on the shore of the island, sparking interest from the islanders and drawing attention from the mainland in the form of Joan and Edward, two anthropologists. Minode lives with her father and sister Linus. Her mother is dead, her father is remote, and her sister often speaks only in Welsh to further isolate herself. It's no surprise that the new anthropologists are such an instant attraction to her. A foreboding mood hangs over this triangle, which soon becomes fraught with the characters' varied purposes and ambitions. Each is keeping a secret from the others. It's almost barbecue time. I can almost smell the smoke in the air. That's why I want to tell you about Big Mo's Big Book of Barbecue. Big Mo Kaysen is the country's undisputed king of brisket and pitmaster extraordinaire. In his debut cookbook, he reveals the secrets of creating amazing flavor with fire and smoke with 75 family favorite recipes. These range from tomahawk steaks to a 14-hour turkey brine. There's even recipes for mac and cheese, a generations-old family recipe for sweet and savory cornbread, and how to make perfectly seasoned collard greens. Kaysen offers expert guidance on different types of smokers and grills, filling the pantry with time-tested spice rubs and marinades, selecting the perfect cut of meat, and more. After all that barbecue, it'll be time to clean up, and chemistry professor Dario Bressanini is on a mission to teach readers about safe, sustainable methods for cleaning their homes while debunking widespread myths. You know those things that you see on the internet on how to clean your oven or get that spot out? The science of cleaning will tell you whether they're true or not. Does bleach remove dirt? How do I get rid of the white stuff on my shower head? Bressanini covers these subjects and more by digging into chemistry basics like solubility, pH, and concentration. He explains how to choose the best product for any job, including advice on making selections at the store and using just the right amount to cut down on waste. Everything contains chemicals, yes, even water, but we should still be careful and eco-friendly about how we clean. The science of cleaning reminds us that science can be both useful and exciting. The Library Thief by Kunjenga Shenji is a strikingly original and absorbing mystery about a white-passing bookbinder in Victorian England and the secrets lurking on the estate where she works. After he brought her home from Jamaica as a baby, Florence's father, a bookbinder, has her hair hot-combed to make her look like the other girls. He brings her into his business, but then she creates a scandal and he throws her into the street. Florence is no dummy, and she talks her way into the remote Forbidding Rose Hall to restore its collection of rare books, her father's former commission. Lord Francis Benfield's library is old and full of secrets, but none so intriguing as the whispers about his late wife. Then one night the library is broken into. Strangely, all the priceless books remain untouched. Florence is puzzled until she discovers a half-burned book in the fireplace and realizes it's the diary of Lord Belfield's wife, which may hold a clue to her fate. This is at once a propulsive Gothic mystery and a striking exploration of race, gender, and self-discovery in Victorian England. Time to get out into the garden. Hugh Richards and Sam Cooper have spent the last 2 years planning and trialing their very own self-sufficiency garden in a 30-square-foot plot, and now they've worked out the perfect formula. You can grow 5 portions of nutritious vegetables a day for 4 people, following their month-by-month growing plan, which is realistic and flexible with cost, space, and time in mind. Included are instructions for creating your garden and learning how to build all the growing spaces you will need, such as hotbeds and polytunnels, and month-by-month planting plans with guidance on key tasks throughout the year. Readers will also discover useful kitchen tips on meal prep, storage, and preserving ideas, along with base recipes so you can make the most of your crops. The second coming follows Garth Risk-Hallberg's best-selling 2015 debut, City on Fire. This is the sprawling saga of Ethan and Jolie, a father and teenage daughter struggling to reconnect. When Ethan's ex, Sarah, unexpectedly reaches out to tell him Jolie is in danger, he travels to New York to save her from herself. Hallberg is brilliant at inhabiting the characters and voices of his very different protagonist and beyond, from the 3 main characters to Sarah's privileged Jewish parents and Ethan's stoner buddies from high school. Readers will keenly feel the pain of Ethan trying to escape his crippling addiction, Sarah trying to maintain her profession while feeling alone and hopeless at relationships, and Jolie just trying to make it through the hell of being a sensitive kid in the painful throes of adolescence. Just a warning, this title takes some commitment, coming in at over 600 pages. Next title is Internet of Animals by Martin Wolkowski. Animal senses are finely tuned to their environments. Rats are known to flee hours before an earthquake and birds to take flight before a tornado. Yet animal movements themselves are rarely glimpsed by humans, save for a flattened patch of grass here or a snapped twig there. What if we could track secret animal movements all over the world? What would they tell us about how our planet is changing? In witty, heartfelt prose, the author reveals intimate and delightful insights into the behavior of animals, from lone foxes in the Arctic to wild elephants in Thailand. He describes the exciting process of getting his project off the ground, from securing funding from NASA to tagging animals himself in remote corners of the world. Finally, he reveals what his research means for our future. Icarus, short for International Cooperation for Animal Research Using Space, may usher in a new epic more hopeful than the Anthropocene, an epic that Wolkowski calls the interspecies, when humans finally listen to animals and respond to what they have to say about the health of our world. In 1917, at the dawn of the Chinese Revolution, Young Han grows up in the southern China countryside and falls deeply in love with the son of a wealthy landlord, despite her brother's objections. On the night of her wedding, her brother destroys the marriage before it even lasted a day and irrevocably changes the shape of Young Ho's family to come. Her daughter, Sheen, will never know her father. This begins the story of Their Divine Fires by Wendy Chen. Haunted by a history that she will never fully understand, Yuxin passes these memories on to her daughters, Hongxin and Yanghong, who come of age in the years following Mao's death, battling the push and pull of political forces of their own. Each generation guards its leaving Emily, great-granddaughter of Young Hong and living in contemporary America, to piece together what actually happened between her mother, her sister, and the weight of their shared ancestry. Drawing on the lives of her great-grandmother and her great-uncle, both of whom fought on the side of the communists, as well as her mother's experiences during the Cultural Revolution, this breathtaking novel tells the love stories of 3 generations of Chinese women across 100 years of revolutions, both political and personal. I hope you find Becoming Ted by Matt Cain as delightful as I did. Ted Aidsworth has always worked at his family's ice cream business in the quiet Lancashire town of St. Luke's-on-the-Sea, even though he doesn't like ice cream. When Ted's husband suddenly leaves him, Ted starts re-examining their relationship and begins to evaluate the rest of his life. With the encouragement of his best friend Denise, who conveniently works at a department store makeup counter, Ted decides to start living out his deepest desire, to be a drag queen. Then there is the cute Polish builder, Oscar, who is working on a project nearby. Can Ted finally let go of everything that's been holding him back all these years and finally start to live the life that he wants? This could be the chance to finally follow his secret dream. After living a vanilla existence, he turns to his friends who help him open up to a world that's more fun, more sassy, more thrilling, and fulfilling than he ever believed he deserved. Decidedly more horrific, Do What Godmother Says by L.S. Stratton is a mashup of historical fiction and thriller that takes place at the crossroads of present day and the vibrant Harlem Renaissance, inspired by Charlotte Osgood Mason and Zora Neale Hurston. The narrative unfolds through the eyes of Shanice, a contemporary young writer, as she discovers the rich legacy tied to a family heirloom, a painting crafted by the esteemed artist Estelle Johnson, who once mingled with luminaries like Langston Hughes. This painting becomes more than just an artifact. It becomes a captivating focal point steeped in history. Not only is the pull to the strange portrait messing with Shanice, but the people who are looking to acquire the piece become increasingly persistent, putting her life in danger. The book is set up with alternating chapters from the point of view of a young woman, Essie, the artist behind the painting, and her entanglement with a prolific family. The matriarch of this family, Godmother, takes young Essie under her wing, but things turn sour when Essie falls for her son. The author skillfully weaves together the nuances of 2 distinct time periods and blends the historical and contemporary elements, all while keeping the suspense alive. Next up is All Friends Are Necessary by Tomas Moñez. After a personal tragedy upends his life, Efren Chino Flores moves back to the Bay Area where his lifelong friends reside. Together, the friends go through the waves of life: dating, job opportunities, losses, protests, and eventually a pandemic. Yet their love for each other is never tested, but rather steadfast. Moñez conjures such evocative descriptions of both settings and characters. The redwoods and native ferns are as much characters as Chino and his group. The reader feels close to these friends, and it's as if you were there with them. With gorgeous, heart-rending detail and a seemingly infinite catalog of tender, unexpected interactions, Moñez has created a striking mosaic of desire and belonging. An anthem to both queer and platonic love, All Friends Are Necessary evinces the wonder of friendship and the joy of giving yourself up to the essential force of community. Oh yes, another pirate book. The Ballad of Jacques Delahaye by Bryony Cameron. It's 1656 and Saint-Dominique. In the dark confines of a cell, a prisoner is waiting. Soon the hangman will call her name, Jacques Delahaye, a name which has struck fear into even the mightiest of empires, for this is no ordinary prisoner. She is a pirate, fierce, legendary, and deadly. As the hangman prepares the noose, Jacquot's story is told, charting her humble origins from the island of Hispaniola to the deck of a fearsome pirate ship. There, against all odds, she swiftly rises through the ranks, traveling across the Caribbean, facing duels across land and sea, and savoring tender moments stolen in the night. Following one of the few purported female pirates to sail the Caribbean in the 17th century, this is a sweeping and dazzling tale of adventure and buccaneering in the forbidden love story that will shape the course of history. Such a Bad Influence by Olivia Monter puts a spotlight on the influencer trend. Hazel Davis has little to show for her work as an adult. Anything she does is overshadowed by her younger sister, who is a mega influencer on social media. Hazel loves her sister but hates that her mother, Momager, has taken advantage of her since she was a little girl. When Evie suddenly disappears, Hazel is forced back to her hometown and must interact with her mother. What happened to Evie? Was it her on-again, off-again boyfriend? A jealous fan? A sworn enemy? How can she explain to the local cops that a girl growing up on social media 24/7 would not disappear freely? The author provides social media posts, interesting characters, and plenty of theories to drive an exciting story to its mind-blowing finish. This timely, riveting debut plunges readers into the dark underbelly of the influencer world, examining the unhealthy side of our parasocial relationships with the internet famous. This story is as addictive as scrolling Instagram and marks the launch of a talented new writer. For fans of Courtney Summers' young adult book, Sadie. Birds Aren't Real. This is from bird truthers Peter McIndoe and Kanya Gatos. They ask, have you ever seen a baby pigeon? Probably not. There's millions of grown-up pigeons in New York, but not a baby pigeon to be seen. That's because they come out of the factory as adults. This is one of the many smoking guns of the bird-drone surveillance crisis. Since 1959, the deep state has mercilessly slaughtered over 12 billion birds and replaced them with identical drones that are designed to spy on private citizens and report their every action directly to the government. These whistleblowers trace the roots of this political conspiracy so vast and well hidden that it almost seems like an elaborate hoax. This urgent manifesto features a host of useful illustrations, activities, and leaked classified documents that will convince even the most outspoken skeptic that birds aren't real. The truth is out there. Will you stand and fight before it's too late? Birding with Benefits by Sarah T. Dubb deals very much with real birds and real people. Mom and teacher Celeste is trying to find herself again after a divorce, where her husband always mentioned to her that she was just too much. Now she's been asked to be John the woodworker's fake date and being his partner for a 42 bird binge competition. Neither is looking for a real relationship. Both of them are still pretty stung by their previous ones. Celeste is bubbly and positive. John is shy and thoughtful. Attraction sparks as John and Celeste add birds to their list in the beautifully described Arizona wilderness. Readers are treated to a hilarious blend of romance, comedy, and birding. From Celeste's attempts at teaching John how to bowl and at least 100 woodworking jokes to their awkward encounters with skeptical coworkers and friends, the book delivers laughs and with a perfect amount of romance and spice. Beep by Bill Rohrbach is an ebullient, funny, and hugely original novel told from the perspective of Beep, a squirrel monkey who, with the help of a brilliant young girl, forges the way forward for a planet in crisis. It takes a sweet and personable squirrel monkey to help readers see the world that they live in more clearly. While intending only to go deeper and higher into the Costa Rican rainforest to find a mate, Beep instead meets Inga, a kindly American tween on vacation with her family. Inadvertently, Beep travels to Manhattan with Inga tucked amongst her stuffies. With her devoted help and a bit of inspiration from a visiting Greta Thunberg, along with dramatic zoo liberation, Beep manages to change the destiny of the world. He even finds his monkey love. Along the way, a vast cast of engaging and perceptive animals have a great deal to say about humanity and the divisions among us, our alien cities, our strange practices, our folly, as well as our beauty and our promise unfulfilled. All the previous titles that I've mentioned are already in our library catalog and ready for you to place on hold, but this next one does not come out till September, so wait until about August for it to show up in the catalog. Now You Owe Me by Aaliyah Wright. True crime addicts rejoice. Although this is a fictional story, its fast-paced action, fascinating characters, and plot twist will make you think you have just binged a Netflix crime documentary. No one knew witnessing their first murder at 7 would propel Ben and his lookalike twin, Corinthia, toward a killing spree in Pennsylvania. Wealth allows them to continue this horrible game until they kidnap a college student, and her roommate just won't back off from the police's lackluster investigation. Readers are drawn into this gripping tale of macabre dichotomies, with characters feeling weird, contemptuous bliss and revulsion and wonder, while the lookalikes, with opposite wants and needs, create a trail of destruction that leads to a startling twist. While questions are answered, the ending leaves an opening for more to the story, and happily, this stellar debut is the first in a series. Thank you for listening to Spring Book Buzz 2024. I hope you enjoy and read some of the books that we've talked about today. Remember, if they're not available in ebook or e-audio format immediately, they soon will become available in that format. Look forward to more books. Check out our recommendations page at denverlibrary.org. Thank you.